The Viralin Spire was the greatest construction in the Horizon Reach, a sprawling station built by the elder races long before humanity ever lifted itself from its first oceans. Millions lived within its spiraling rings. It was where treaties were written, borders decided, and entire civilizations rose or fell based on quiet words spoken behind sealed doors. Elara had walked these corridors many times, but never like this. Today she walked them with Leora. Her daughter moved as though gravity barely applied to her. Every new species pulled her attention. Tall, crystalline beings whose bodies chimed as they moved. Feathered traders who glided instead of walked. Even the tiny Zethi children darting through the air on humming lens platforms made her stop and stare. Leora pressed close to her mother with each new discovery, her brown eyes bright with wonder. The spire was her first step into a galaxy she had only read about, and the excitement rolled off her like warm light. "Look at them, Mom," Leora whispered. "All of them together in one place. It feels like magic." Quote, Elara smiled despite the heaviness in her chest from the negotiations ahead. "It's not magic," she said softly, "just work. Work done over hundreds of years." "But it looks beautiful," Leora said. "I want to see everything." And that was why Elara had agreed to bring her, because the girl saw beauty where others saw politics, saw hope where adults saw caution. Leora was the best part of her, the part she feared the galaxy did not deserve. They reached the diplomatic wing, a quieter ring, lined with soft blue lights. The quarters assigned to them were plain but comfortable, overlooking the outer docking spines. Leora ran to the wide viewport the instant the doors slid open. "Mom, look! There are so many ships!" Elara joined her and watched the endless stream of craft approaching and departing, freighters from distant nebulae, patrol cruisers from the elder empires, tiny civilian skimmers weaving between the giants like sparks from a fire. "Can I explore while you're in meetings?" Leora asked. Elara hesitated. The spire was considered safe, and Leora was responsible, but the station was enormous. Too many corners, too many unknowns. "Stay in public areas," Elara said at last. "Keep your comm on, and if you see any sign marked in red, you turn around immediately." Leora hugged her tightly. "Thank you. I'll be careful. I promise." The next morning, while Elara began her first day of tense negotiations with the Tarsidian Union, Leora set out with the boundless confidence that only bright children had. She wandered through markets that shimmered with floating lights. She tasted street foods that danced on her tongue. She met aliens who had never seen a human child and smiled down at her with gentle curiosity. And for a while, everything felt safe. But on the second day, after hours of exploring familiar paths, Leora noticed a corridor she had never seen before. Its entrance was framed by carved stone panels depicting alien flora. The air within glowed with soft green hues, as if sunlight filtered through leaves that did not exist here. Leora hesitated only a moment. The beauty pulled at her. She followed the corridor. Her steps grew slower as she walked. The air smelled sweet, almost musical. The walls were covered with carvings that resembled flowers and winding branches, living stone that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at it. At the end of the corridor lay a garden. A perfect garden. Strange, luminous blossoms grew in spirals across black soil. Trees of silver bark stretched overhead, their leaves glowing a soft blue that painted the garden like twilight. A stream wound through the center, humming as if singing to itself. Leora had never seen anything like it. She saw no warning symbols, none in her language, at least. She saw no guards, no barriers, only wonder. She stepped inside. Her gaze locked onto a bloom that shone like a gentle star, a blue sphere of light perched on a delicate stem. She moved toward it, breath held, wanting only to see beauty up close. She reached out her hand. A voice slammed into the garden like a blade. "What are you doing here?" Leora spun around. 3 figures stood in the entrance. They were tall, their pale metallic skin marked with glowing orange veins. Their robes carried gold sigils older than human civilization. Their eyes burned like embers. The Crith Order, one of the oldest, most feared species in the Horizon Reach. "I'm sorry," Leora said quickly. "I didn't know. I just wanted to see the flowers." The tallest Crith stepped forward, His expression was empty, carved from stone. "This ground is sacred," he said. "No unawakened species may enter. You have violated our sanctum." "I didn't mean to," Leora whispered. "I'll leave right now. I'm really sorry." She tried to walk toward the exit, but two armed Krith guards materialized behind her. They moved silently, blocking her way. "I want my mom," she said, her voice trembling. The elder Krith lifted a hand. A faint glow pulsed through his veins. "In our law," he said, "there is only one consequence for defilement." Leora swallowed. What is that?" "Purification." Quote, Elara was in the middle of a negotiation when her calm erupted in a sound she had never heard before, a sound reserved for only one thing, a child in mortal danger. Her child. She ran. She ran without breath, without thought, pushing through crowds, ignoring shouts as she sprinted across the spire. She followed the red indicator on her comm through hall after hall, her heart pounding like a detonating star. She turned into the carved corridor. The guards stood aside. Elara stumbled into the garden as her legs shook beneath her. The flowers glowed, the stream sang, the beauty shimmered, and on the path before the blue starflower, only Leora's shoes remained, empty, still warm. Elara collapsed. The sound that tore from her throat did not belong to anything human. It was the sound of a universe breaking. 3 days later, Ambassador Elara Vance stood before the Horizon Galactic Council, her eyes hollow, her voice held together by a thread of iron will. The chamber rose above her like a mountain of glass and light. Delegates from 37 species watched with practiced detachment. She did not bow, she did not tremble. "My daughter was killed," she said. "You will answer for it." The eldest of the Krith, the same order that had taken Leora, stepped forward. His silver skin glowed faintly under the council lights. "The child trespassed," he said. "Under Krith law, purification was correct." "Correct." Elara's jaw tightened. "You murdered a child for touching a flower." "We regret the outcome," the elder said, "but the law stands." The council voted. 31 upheld the Krith ruling, 6 abstained. Only 2 voted with humanity. The verdict echoed like a cold blade across the chamber. Regrettable, but lawful. Humanity was advised to train their young with greater care. Elara listened in silence, then turned and walked out without a word. That night, she transmitted a message to Earth. She included the last audio captured by Leora's comm, her daughter's trembling voice, frightened, apologizing, trying to understand. She added only one line. "They killed my child and called it justice." The message crossed the stars, and Earth fell silent, no protest, no retaliation, no statements of war, just quiet. The elder races noted the silence, but did not fear it. Humans were a young species. Their fleet was small, their territory tiny. They would grieve and move on. All young species eventually bent their heads and accepted their place. But the silence continued. And then humanity began to leave. Across the galaxy, human merchants closed their shops. They sold their goods and vanished aboard ships heading toward Sol. Human scientists ended decades-long projects, handed over research, whispered farewells with tears in their eyes. On Viraloon's spire, every human diplomat packed their belongings within 3 days. Elara was the last to depart. At the boarding gate, she looked once at the spire, at the station that had stolen her daughter, and then turned away. A single message pulsed through hidden channels no one had known existed. "Come home." Every human obeyed. Within 1 standard month, not a single human remained outside the Sol system. The elder races felt unease, not fear, never fear, but confusion. "Perhaps they hide in shame," one counselor said. "They know they stand no chance against us," said another. But Admiral Sovereign Althur of the Dravari Dominion felt the old itch beneath his scales, an instinct that had kept him alive through 3 galactic wars. Something was wrong. He retreated into the ancient archives. Records dating back 50 millennia glowed around him as he searched for humanity's origins. He found a corrupted file, and a symbol that froze his breath. A fleet called the First Silent Armory. A lost epic known as the Dawn of the Forgotten. References to the ships that sleep. A species had once ruled a quarter of the galaxy, so advanced that others appeared to them as children. Then they withdrew to a single system, wiped their own memory, and vanished from all conflict. The system's designation stunned him. Soul. Althur read on, scales turning pale. The species had sealed their power away until the day mercy is mistaken for weakness. His claws trembled. Meanwhile, near the outskirts of Sol, strange anomalies appeared. A trader passing near the asteroid belt reported gravity spikes and an impossible sensation, as if the dark itself is watching. Ancient warning buoys placed centuries ago blinked out one by one. A probe investigating the belt vanished mid-transmission. Beneath the lunar surface, sensors detected movement, massive, slow, deliberate. It lasted 3 hours. Then silence. The Council dispatched a scout vessel. The Crith volunteered. The ship, Verdict's Eye, entered Sol space confidently, its captain mocking humanity's retreat. But later, his tone changed. Council, we detect multiple contacts, massive, emerging from the dark between Jupiter and Saturn. Static filled the transmission. These ships, they match nothing in our archives. The smallest is larger than our dreadnoughts. Some are moon-sized. Another pause. They're scanning us. We're attempting communication. They aren't answering, they're just watching. The last whisper from the captain came cracked and terrified. There is something old in the dark between their planets. Something waking. We should not have. Silence. The scout ship was never found. Panic rippled across the Council. Fleets mobilized. Scholars tore apart ancient records. But it was already too late. In the frozen void of the Kuiper Drift, machines older than most civilizations groaned awake. Massive structures broke free from ice and stone. Hidden shipyards activated for the first time in 12,000 years. A colossal vessel stirred beneath the surface of Mars. And inside its core chamber, a woman opened her eyes, eyes that had last seen the galaxy before the Council existed. Her name long ago had been Admiral Kaela Surn, commander of the Silent Armory, the silence between stars. She rose, cold light gleaming off armor last worn in wars that had burned civilizations out of history. A crew member approached with a datapad. "It's a recording, Admiral," from a child. Kaela listened. Leora's frightened voice filled the chamber. "I'm sorry, Mom, I didn't mean to. I'm so—" The recording ended. Kaela's face did not change. But something ancient ignited behind her eyes. "What happened?" she asked quietly. They told her. When they finished, she stood tall and unshakable. "Wake the others," she said. "All of them. Every ship, every crew, every soldier we placed in sleep." "Admiral, the Council fleets number in the thousands." Kaela gave a thin, cold smile. "So did the empires we erased." She turned toward the forward viewport, watching the stars tremble as the ancient armory rumbled to life. "Plot a course for the Orzen Council," she said. "It is time they remember who we are." Across the Sol system, 10,000 buried ships rose from shadow. The galaxy trembled. The emergency session of the Horizon Galactic Council filled the grand chamber to breaking. Delegates from every member species lined the rising tiers. Fear hung in the air like heat before a storm. Admiral Sovereign Althur stood at the central podium. His scales had turned a pale gray, the color of dread in his people. In his hand, he held an old data crystal that hummed with faint blue light. "I searched the archives," he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "You will not want to hear what I found, but you must." He activated the crystal. Holograms filled the air, ships beyond comprehension. Weapons that twisted space like cloth. Cities turning to white fire. Worlds falling silent in moments. Over and over, one symbol appeared on the hulls of those ancient vessels. A blue circle, with a single white star at its heart. 12,000 years ago, Althur said, there was a species that ruled a quarter of this galaxy. They did not negotiate. They did not join councils. They conquered. Images shifted again, dead worlds, broken moons, ghostly fleets drifting. They built weapons that bent reality. They fought for 3,000 years. No empire could stop them. Then, suddenly, they withdrew. They dismantled their empire and pulled back to a single star system. He paused. Sol. The chamber fell silent. No one moved. No one dared to breathe too loudly. They sealed their memories, Althur continued. They buried their fleets. They chose to become something new. They made themselves small and young and peaceful. They joined this council 300 years ago as if they had never been anything else. A voice broke the silence, thin and shaking. You are saying the humans were those conquerors? Althor nodded slowly. Yes. We dismissed them as weak. We killed their child and called it law. And now they remember what they were. The Krith elder rose sharply, his orange eyes burning. This is impossible. Their fleet holds 300 ships at most. We have thousands. Their visible fleet holds 300 ships, Althor said. The ones they left sleeping in the dark are another matter. Our best estimates suggest 10,000, perhaps more, with technology that still surpasses ours. The elder's eyes flickered, just for a moment. Even so, he said. Our weapons are modern, theirs are relics. Althor almost laughed. 12,000 years ago, they were centuries ahead of us. Before they slept, they upgraded those ships to answer any future threat. The scout vessel you lost near Sol never even saw the weapon that took it. Quote, as if summoned by his words, an aide rushed into the chamber, breathless. Admiral Council, we have new reports. Human ships have been detected across the spiral. They are emerging from regions we believed empty. Dead clouds, forgotten shipyards, dark interstellar gulfs. How many? Someone asked. First count said 1,000, then 2, then 5. They are converging toward council space from every direction. Another signal blinked on the aide's console. Their eyes widened. They are also here. The chamber erupted. Through the vast windows, delegates watched in stunned horror as the Viraloon spire vanished behind a forest of metal. 10,000 human warships surrounded the station, appearing with no warning, no sensor trace, as if space itself had folded around them. At the center hung a vessel the size of a small moon, black and silver, drinking in starlight. Its lines were smooth and predatory, shaped only for one purpose. A voice cut across every channel. I am Admiral Kaela Surn of the Silent Armory, the woman said, her tone calm, cold, and terribly clear. I speak to the Horizon Galactic Council. The chamber fell quiet at once. Even those who did not understand the human tongue felt the weight in it. 12,000 years ago, we chose to become something better, Kaela said. We sealed our memories. We buried our weapons. We trusted the galaxy to protect our children while we slept. She paused. You killed a human child for touching a flower. You called it justice. You called it lawful. Her voice did not rise. It did not shake. Somehow that made it worse. We remember everything now, she said. We remember what we were. We remember what we can do. And we have decided the galaxy needs to remember as well. The transmission ended. Far from the spire, at the heart of the Krith Dominion, Lithar Prime hung in space like a jewel of gray stone and molten orange seas. It was wrapped in steel. 4,000 warships formed a sphere around the planet, layer after layer of shields and weapons, the largest fleet ever assembled in known history. On the flagship, the Krith Elder stood with his hands clasped behind his back and allowed himself a faint smile. Let them come, he said. Let them see what happens when they challenge the Elder races. We were rulers of stars when their ancestors still feared fire. The officers around him nodded, confidence flowing through the bridge like a drug. 3 days later, reality itself seemed to fold around Lithar Prime. The human fleet did not arrive from one direction. They arrived from every vector at once. Warships slid out of warped space in a perfect countersphere, matching the Krith formation point for point. Sensors tried to count them. 1,000. 2. 5. 7. Then the tracking systems began to fail under the strain. The smallest human vessel was twice the size of the greatest Krith dreadnought. The largest, Kaela's flagship, was a black star hanging at the center of the formation. Kaela's voice rang through every Krith ship. You have one chance to surrender, she said. Power down your weapons, drop your shields, accept judgment for what you have done. Quote. The Elder slammed his hand onto the console. We are the Krith, he snarled. We do not kneel to children playing with old toys. You were nothing when we were already ancient. You will be nothing again. There was a pause. As you wish, Kaela replied. The battle began. The Krith fired first. 4,000 ships unleashed every weapon they possessed. Gravity lances tore at space. Fusion storms roared across the void. Missiles spun like burning comets. The combined firepower could have shattered a planet's crust. None of it reached its targets. The weapons did not strike shields. They did not glance off armor. The shots simply stopped. frozen in place like insects in amber. Space around the human fleet rippled once, and the attacks faded, as if the universe had changed its mind about allowing them to exist. Then the Silent Armory answered. They did not respond with beams or missiles. Reality changed. On one Krith cruiser, the decks became transparent crystal. The crew saw the stars and their own terror reflected back as the hull fractured into glittering dust. On another, time slowed until every movement became a prison. The crew remained alive, aware, trapped in a single stretched second that would not end. Elsewhere, gravity inverted, and the ship's interior became exterior. Men and women and machines twisted into impossible positions, frozen in a sculpture of horror that should not have been. The Krith tried to flee. Their drives refused to respond. They tried to target the human ships. Their targeting systems displayed only static and a single symbol, a blue circle with a white star. 11 minutes after the first shot, the battle ended. 4,000 ships were gone. Some had been shattered, some had been transformed into silent monuments of broken physics. Some had simply vanished from existence. The human fleet had not lost a single vessel. Kaela's flagship drifted forward through the debris field and came to rest above Lithar Prime. Cities that had stood for 100,000 years stared up at the shadow now blotting out their sun. 60 billion Krith waited for fire. No fire came. Instead, a beam of soft white light lanced down from Kaela's flagship and struck the central plaza of the capital. When it faded, the Elder stood alone on the stone. One moment he had been on his command ship. The next he was surrounded by his people, under their sky, under their fear. The Admiral's voice reached every screen, every speaker, every mind that could hear. "This is the one who ordered Elara Vance's death," she said. "This is the one who named murder lawful." The Elder looked around, snarling, ready to speak. Then he felt it. His skin sagged, his bones ached. Age poured into him like molten metal. In seconds he lived through 100 years, then 200, then more. His tall frame bent and twisted, but his heart would not fail. His lungs kept dragging in air. He could not die. A device appeared before him, hovering just above the stone. It projected an image into the air. A girl with brown eyes and messy hair walked through a glowing garden. She reached for a blue starflower. "Mom, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry." "I'm so." The recording looped. Again and again. The Elder tried to look away. He could not. The device held his gaze like chains of light. He screamed until his voice broke. He clawed at his own eyes. His hands passed through the image, through his own skin. The device did not allow escape. "You will live with this," Kaela said. "For as long as your people exist, you will live with what you did. Every child of your species will learn your name. You wanted to be remembered as an elder. You will be remembered as the fool who woke the giants." She turned her attention to the planet. "The rest of you are not innocent," she continued. "You upheld this law. You called it justice while a child died. You believed your power would protect you." The fleet above shifted. Every human ship aimed its silent weapons at the surface. "We could turn your world to ash," Kaela said. "We could do to you what you did to her, 1,000,000 times over." The planet held its breath. "But that is not who we chose to be," she said quietly. 12,000 years ago, we decided that strength without mercy is only another kind of rot. We will not become what we were. She gave them a choice: submit to human oversight for 100 years, dismantle what remained of their military, accept the eternal presence of their elder's suffering as a living warning, or refuse and watch their world die. Across Lithar Prime, Krith looked at the sky. They looked at their broken elder. They looked at the fleet that had erased 4,000 ships in minutes. One by one they knelt. The first surrender was given. But the judgment was not finished. The Silent Armory turned and burned through space, returning to Virulon Spire. 10,000 ships formed a steel shell around the station, a single thought made of metal and will. Inside, the noise of panic had faded. There was nowhere to run, no fleet to call. Only waiting. On the flagship bridge, Kaela watched the station through the viewport. Memories of dead worlds rose like smoke behind her eyes. She remembered children who had stared at her in terror while she ordered fire long ago. She had sworn never to be that creature again. "Admiral," an officer said, "we are receiving a transport request." "From whom?" "Elara Vance." Kaela was silent for a long time. "Granted," she said. Elara arrived on the flagship looking like a ghost made solid. Her shoulders were straight, but her skin was pale, and the grief in her eyes felt heavier than armor. "You woke all of this for her," Elara said. "For my daughter." "For her," Kaela answered, "and for every child we failed to protect while we slept." Elara looked around at the ancient bridge. At weapons built before her world's history began. At officers who had once decided the fates of galaxies. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Will you burn them all? Make them feel every pain we felt?" Kaela studied her. "Would that bring Leora back?" she asked. "No," Elara said. Her voice shook. "Nothing will bring her back." "Then what would you have us do?" The question seemed to echo through every light on the bridge. Elara had asked herself the same thing in endless nights. She had imagined a dozen kinds of revenge. None had brought peace to her mind. "Leora loved this galaxy," she whispered. "She wanted to meet everyone. She wanted it to be kind. She would have hated this fear." Kaela closed her eyes for a moment. "When we chose to sleep," she said softly, "we believed we could trust the galaxy to grow with us. We were wrong, but we were right to try. I do not want to be a monster again, Ambassador, yet I cannot let them believe there will be no price for killing a child." "Then do what must be done," Elara said, "but make sure it never happens again, to anyone." Later, they stood together in the council chamber of Viralun Spire. Elara stepped to the central podium. Her words carried to every world. "My daughter was kind," she said. "She walked into a garden because she wanted to see something beautiful. You killed her and called it law." She turned slowly, meeting the eyes of every delegate. The Krith seats stood empty now, pulled under judgment, but the others remained. "My ancestors were monsters," Elara said. "They drowned stars in blood and ash. They chose to forget the fire. You woke it." Her voice did not break. "You will live with what you have called down." Kaela stepped forward. "The Horizon Galactic Council has failed," she said. "You wrote laws to shield the powerful and crush the weak. You turned murder into procedure. That era ends now." Documents rose in the air above her hand. Old treaties. Loopholes. Judgments like the one that had killed Leora. "The Krith government is dissolved," she said. "For 100 years they will answer to human oversight. Their fleets are gone. Their elder will endure what he gave." No one protested. No one dared. "A new law will stand over all others," Kaela said. "No child of any species may be harmed for the sake of law, custom, or politics. Ever, any who violate this will answer to us." She lifted her gaze to the high dome. "At the heart of this station you will build a monument. A human girl in an alien garden, reaching for a flower she never touched. Every delegate who enters this hall will see her. Every generation will remember why she stands here." Silence wrapped the chamber. "We will not return to sleep," Kaela said. "The Silent Armory will remain awake. We will patrol the borders of civilized space. We will watch. We will remember. And if any hand is raised against a child again, we will be there." She dropped her hand. "This is not revenge," she said. "Revenge would have been fire. This is justice. This is mercy. It is the only way left to honor what Leora believed in." 3 months later, the monument garden was complete. Not the old Krith meditation garden. That place had been torn down. In its place, at the heart of Viralun Spire, a new garden grew. Flowers from 100 worlds bloomed beneath a soft dome of light. Anyone could enter. Anyone could sit beneath the trees and look at the statue at the center. A human girl, carved in pale stone, reaching toward a glowing flower. Her eyes were bright. Her hair refused to stay in place, even in frozen memory. Elara stood before the statue, hands folded. "They captured her," she whispered. "Every part of her." "Yes," Kaela said beside her. "Alien children ran between human children among the paths. Some had scales, some had feathers. Some floated above the ground on humming fields. They laughed with the easy joy of those who did not yet know how dark the universe could be." "She would have loved this," Elara said. "She would have hated the fear we caused," Kaela replied. "But this garden, this law, this promise that no child will ever die like she did, She would have loved what comes next. They watched the children play. Above them, the Silent Armory formed a silver crown around the station, a warning to those who would break the new law, a promise to those who needed protection. Humanity had awakened. They had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. Then, once again, they had chosen to be something better, not because they had forgotten their power, because they finally understood what it was for. In Leora's garden, a small, alien girl with violet skin approached a human boy. She hesitated, then held out her hand. "Do you want to see the flowers with me?" she asked. He smiled and took it. Far above, Admiral Kaela Surn watched the scene on a quiet display. For the first time in 12,000 years, she allowed herself to hope.